Hi, this is John from Better Than Yourself. Today I want to put together a hydroponics garden. It's not really expensive to set up. You just need to buy a little bit of tubing and some plumbing and a couple of bins that you probably have around the house. I have my old fish pond pump that we're going to use. But basically what I want to do is take a look at the parts that you need to put the garden together, how to set it up, how to plant it, and then how to keep it running over the long term. So here, let's get started. First thing you'll need is a couple of bins. These will be the actual planters. These will be the garden beds. You'll need a larger bin. This is just an old Rubbermaid tote that I had kicking around my shop. I rinsed it out real well and gave it a good scrubbing, so there's nothing bad in it. A couple of kinds of pipe. This is 1/2-inch plastic pipe, 1/4-inch plastic pipe. When you set up any kind of a water system, you always want your drain to be bigger diameter than your supply. That way it won't overflow. That way it's always easier for it to drain than it is for it to supply. So we'll do 1/2-inch supply, 3/4-inch drain. Next part on the list is the ebb and flow fitting kit. What these are is they're going to connect the planters to the pipes. So, and then there's just some screens to keep the gravel or the debris from getting into the pipes. I got two. I got one for each planter. And then I picked up a packet of 1/2-inch supply tees. Next part, electrical timer. For the first planter, I'm going to do a rock wool system. Rock wool is kind of like fiberglass in that it's a spun product. They take rocks instead of glass. They take those rocks, heat them up, and then spin them so they make real fine fibers, and then pack them into blocks. So it looks like a wool consistency or like fiberglass or something, but it's actually made out of stone. These are great for growing your plants in hydroponics gardens. You can see they've got little circles in them. That's where the plugs fit. So what I'm going to do is, with this package of plugs, I'll start my seeds in the plugs, and then once they get to be little seedlings, I can transfer them over into the rock wool cubes, and then they can create their root system and grow into a more mature plant. More on these later. Final piece of the puzzle is a pump. This is the garden pump. This is the pump out of my pond. We've since retired the pond because the hawks were eating the goldfish, so that wasn't working. So let's repurpose this pond pump. It's got the 1/2-inch fitting that I mentioned, the 1/2-inch supply, and this is probably going to be a little bigger than we need for this project. We'll see how it goes, but I've got a way of dealing with it, so I think it's going to be fine. The first step of setting up our hydroponic garden is drilling some holes to accept the ebb and flow fitting kit. So basically you're going to have a supply and a drain, and then these are going to go down through the bottom of the bucket, and the pump will feed the water up through the supply, and then the pump will eventually shut off, and then the whole thing will drain out. So we need a way to mount these very conveniently in our bucket here. So let's look at drilling these holes in these buckets. What I want to do is support the box from the bottom. It's got kind of a recess here. If I push against this while I'm drilling it, I'm afraid I'm going to snap it. So I'm just going to prop it up on some blocks. And then I've got a 1 1/4-inch hole saw mounted to my drill. Awesome. Let me just clean these holes up a little bit. These just come apart. There's a couple of washers here, some little rubber seals. So you'll basically have a rubber seal, and then the box, and then the rubber seal, right? All right, next on my agenda is cutting a couple of holes in this piece of plywood. I need to cut 4 holes for the drain and supply here, and we'll get these the pipes run down through the bottom of the table. Safety first. Like it was made for it. Perfect. Okay, now, the other bits in the ebb and flow kit are the drain covers and the extensions. So you can basically stack these and make the drain as tall as you want. Obviously what you're trying to do is get the bottom of the drain lower than the top edge of the bucket. So I'm looking at right about there. So I'm perfect. And then I'll just go ahead and put a drain cover on the supply end as well, so that rocks and gravel and detritus doesn't get down into my pump. Remember, the drain is the larger size pipe. That's the 3/4 inch. Okay, I think we're all set top side. Let's take a look at how we're going to plumb this on the bottom. All right, we've got the planter beds all set up top here. Let's take a look at what we need to do to get the water circulating. My plan is to have about 20 gallons of water in this green Tupperware bucket. Take the pump the water up through the supply lines, flood the planters, and then allow the water to drain back into the bucket. So I'll do a drain from the very top of the drain to about 3 inches of the bottom of the bucket. So right here where my finger is. Try to relax these coils a little bit. Don't need to be coiled up, I need it to be straight. If you find that your hose is just persistent and it won't straighten out, you can soak it in a little hot water first. Boil some water and then just kind of bend this the wrong way and stick it down in a pot of the water. Take it off the stove, put the tube in the hot water for 15-20 seconds, and then you can hold it straight and stretch it out. It might come to that, but this is good enough for now. You can probably see I'm just sort of screwing this onto the barbed fitting. You can use the reinforcement. The reinforcement almost acts like a screw, and you can turn it right up onto the barbed fitting. It's gonna take a little persuasion now. There we go. All right, one more for the other side. Now let's just make them both the same length. Okay. So that'll drain into the bucket. This will drain into the bucket. Okay, that makes short work of our drains. Let's take a look at what we need to do to get the water out of the basin, up through the pump, and then to our fills here. I have a package of teas. What I'm going to do is come up out of the pump and then tee it to go to each of the supplies. A lot easier to cut than the reinforced stuff. Let's cut this in half. Now we just need another piece to go from the T-fitting down to the pump. So we'll look at just a straight shot down to the height of the pump. Right there. Alright, here's the whole system. We've got our pump down to the bottom of the bucket, coming up to this T, which goes up to the supply line, and that feeds the supply. So then the water will fill the bucket, and then it'll rise up to the level of the drain here, and then it'll go down the 3/4 inch pipe, and then we'll drain out into our basin. Alright, let's water test this thing. And this is what, maybe a 20-gallon tote? So I'll just fill this with water from the hose. I'll fill it, I don't know, within a couple of inches of the top. Alright, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. Let's plug this in and see how our pump does filling up our basin. Sounds promising. Looking good. Water's filling in. I think I'm pretty happy with the size of the pump I picked out. That was just kind of by dumb luck. That's my old pond filter. But it looks like we're about halfway down on our water level here, and we're about halfway up on our water level here. So I think we might have a volumetrically balanced system. But the drains are just now starting to work. I can see some water trickling out of them. And here we're sucking, the pump's sucking air. So I actually got just exactly enough water. So I think I've got 50 quarts of water down there. And at this point, you'll see with the timer, this is where the pump kicks off. So what's going to happen in our ebb and flow system is that was the flow. The water will flow and fill up the planters. And then the pump will run for 15 minutes. And then the water will ebb and recede back down into the basin on the floor. And here's the final part to the puzzle. Here's our final build implement. This is a 24-hour timer. Remember I said that the pump would come on for 15 minutes and fill the planters, and then the water would flow out and back down to the basin? This is how I'm going to achieve that effect. This is basically a 24-hour timer. And what you can do is move these little switches out, and so every 6 hours, the pump will come on for 15 minutes and fill the basin, continue to run for a little while to circulate the water, and then after 15 minutes it'll shut off and both pans will drain. There, it just finished draining. So this will be good. So basically what will happen is the pump will come on every 6 hours for 15 minutes, run and fill the basin up with water, saturate the rock wool growing media with water, and then will drain out. The rock wool is absorbent enough that it'll hold just enough water for the plant's roots to get moisture and to drink, but not so wet that the roots will drown. Roots still need air. Yeah, this is hydroponics, but we still need to make sure we're getting some air into the system. Roots breathe. Roots will drown if they're constantly soaking in water. So the idea behind my ebb and flow system is that I'm going to fill it up, it's going to flow it with water, and then the water will ebb out after 15 minutes, and then the plants will hold on to the water that's stored in these rock wool blocks. All right, now that we've got a garden, all I need is a couple of plants. Let's take a look at how we're going to get our seedlings started. Now that I've got my hydroponic beds operational, I want to start some seedlings. I've got these macro plugs. Again, like I said, these are made out of rock wool, and they're basically just a cylinder of rock wool that has a little split in the middle. And what you need to treat them first. The instructions tell you to soak them in 5.5 pH solution. I've got some water here. Grab yourself a pH tester. I've got a link down below for one of these. This is, I don't know, $10, $20 I think. A lot easier than keeping a supply of pH paper on hand. Looks like my water's about 6.7, slightly acidic. I'm shooting for 5.5. A little bit of apple cider vinegar. .4. That'll work. and just throw them in. I'm gonna do 3 crops to start. So let's do 12. Let's do 4 plugs of each thing. So I've got, there's 4, 8. We'll do 12 plugs here. Just give these a soak for, I don't know, a couple of minutes. Okay, my grow plugs have gotten their acid bath here. I've drained them. And now I just want to go ahead and start putting the seeds in some of them. I've got some basil seeds, some cilantro, and some amaranth. Amaranth is what you think it is. It's an ancient grain. You probably remember it from world history class. But amaranth, it grows, I don't know, 6 feet tall and big giant red flowers that you can take the seeds out of and then use for grain. I like to grow it as a microgreen or just grow it, let it get about this tall and keep plucking the leaves off it and using it for salad greens. And it's really delicious. And to have a look at it, I mean, it really is grain. I mean, this is something that you can, imagine that you would boil and eat as like a gruel or something like that. But again, I don't let it get that high. I let it get a couple of feet tall and just keep picking the leaves and throwing the big green leaves in my salad. It makes gorgeous leaves. Tiny little seeds like this, you don't want to really plant too deep. I'm going to throw a couple in each cube, just a 1/4 of an inch down from the top. You just kind of pry these open and sprinkle some seeds in. So clamp the lid on, and you want to keep this dark and moist and warm. Dark and moist is easy. The box will keep it moist. Dark, throw it in the closet somewhere downstairs. And for the warm part, I love this thing. It's a seedling heat mat. It's like a big heating pad for your seedlings. Just go ahead and put it like that and plug it in. And you can. It doesn't get very hot. It literally just raises the temperature of its surroundings by 10 degrees. So it's about, 68 degrees in here. This will raise it up to 78. I'll plug this in, and it literally puts a rush job on your seedlings. So let me plug this in downstairs where it's dark somewhere, and we'll keep it warm for a week, and we'll check in, and then we're looking for seedlings about 1 inch and 2 inches, and then we'll pick up the video there. So it's been about a week. And you remember the sprouts we put down? I got a couple. The amaranth came up. The basil plants came up. The amaranth is pretty. The little red sprouts here. The coriander, my cilantro plants, bupkis. So maybe I'll get a couple of little cilantro plants at the supermarket or see what I can do. So I've got these blocks. I pointed these out last week. And these are simple. What could be easier is literally take these units, shove them down in one of these blocks, and you're done. Plant it. So I've got 6 of these. I think what I want to do is the amaranth. All right, those will flood and those will get watered. This is the Hydroton, the expanded clay. Comes in a 50-liter bag. If you tease the string out, it should come right apart. You can rinse this. I'm not going to get real excited about it. You got a couple of options. You can fill some mesh pots. And then literally take your plug and just embed it down in here and grow it like that. I think we'll start these. I'm gonna get some plants upstairs and we'll do something better with these. That's a method. You can do it this way. I think what I want to do is just start a whole bed. And then what you can do, this will get flooded, and then put your little plant plugs in like this. And you're planted. I picked this up on Amazon. Vipar Spectra 300. Nice self-contained unit. Power plug, European plug, power switch, and this is 300 watts of LED power. So let's get this hung up. This is a nice LED unit. Comes with a hanging kit. Alright, I think that's going to work out. Let me get a pulley and a nail up in the ceiling. This bed finally drained. You can hear the water sucking out of it. I've got this surveyor's string and just an eyelet. I'm going to put this up in the ceiling and we can hang the light from it. Couple things I'm noticing about my setup right off the bat. This, as the pump is on, the water floods way too high. It floods like over the tops of these little seedlings. I think I'm going to adjust this, and I can literally just take out a section, and maybe even 2 sections. And we can set the level of that just by taking these little links out. And then I really don't want to flood, kill the plants. I'm not trying to drown them. I just want to keep these blocks saturated. That sucks. As for this one, you can see how the Hydroton is still very dry from shipping. Once this floods a couple of times, these will saturate and they won't float as much. But I'll probably want to check this pretty soon here, and make sure that my little plantlets aren't sunk down into underneath the Hydroton. There, that's probably a perfect level. Look at that. It's filling. The pump is on, but I've got my overflow lowered, so it's just the kind of the ground level here. I'm happy with the height of my light. I've got a good width of light here, so I think we're set. My pump is set to come on. I adjusted it. I adjusted the pump to come on every couple of hours because I want to make sure this Hydroton gets well saturated. And I recognize that I've got 2 separate issues here. I mean, the way you irrigate these blocks is probably a lot different than the way you generally irrigate Hydroton. Like I said before, it's an experiment. We'll see what does well. I can always adjust the timer on the pump. And that's really all there is to it. That's my hydroponics garden. Check back in a couple of weeks and you can see how the plants are doing. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.